Captain Lisa Martinez stood on the bridge of the UES Wanderer, watching the stars drift past the main window. Her ship had been exploring this empty region of space for 3 months now. The crew was getting restless, and she could not blame them. There was nothing out here except darkness and distant stars. The science officer looked up from her station with wide eyes. "Captain, we have something strange on long-range sensors." Lisa walked over to the sensor station. The display showed a large object drifting in the void about 2 light hours away. It was massive and clearly artificial, but the readings made no sense. "What am I looking at here?" Lisa asked. "It appears to be a ship, Captain, but it's enormous. The computer estimates it's at least 5 kilometers long. The metal composition is unlike anything in our database." Lisa studied the readings. The object was cold and appeared to be dead in space. No energy signatures or life signs could be detected from this distance, but something about it felt important. "Set course for the object. We're going to take a closer look." Commander Amy Johnson stepped up beside her captain. "Are you sure that's wise? We have no idea what that thing is or where it came from." "That's exactly why we need to investigate. This could be the discovery of a lifetime." The Wanderer changed course and began moving toward the mysterious object. As they got closer, the true size of the ship became clear. It was not just large, but absolutely massive. The hull was a strange mix of smooth curves and sharp angles that seemed to flow together like living art. "Captain, I'm reading some faint energy signatures now. Whatever this is, it's not completely dead," the science officer reported. Lisa felt her heart rate increase. A ship this size from an unknown civilization was the kind of discovery that changed everything. She had to know more. "Take us in closer, but keep our shields up and weapons ready. I want a full sensor sweep of that vessel." The Wanderer moved within a few hundred meters of the alien ship. Up close, they could see that the hull was covered in strange symbols and markings. Some sections looked damaged while others appeared to be made from materials that seemed to shift and change in the light. "I'm detecting breathable atmosphere in several sections of the ship. There are also what appear to be thousands of small chambers throughout the vessel." Dr. Kate Sullivan joined them on the bridge. "Captain, if there's breathable air in there, we need to consider the possibility of survivors." Lisa nodded. "Prepare an away team. I want full environmental suits and heavy scanning equipment. We go in expecting anything." The away team consisted of Lisa, Dr. Sullivan, 2 security officers, and an engineer. They took a shuttle over to the alien vessel and found what appeared to be a docking bay. The massive doors were sealed, but their engineer managed to interface with the ship's systems. The doors opened with a deep humming sound that seemed to vibrate through their bones. The docking bay was huge and empty, except for strange mechanical arms hanging from the ceiling. The air was thin but breathable according to their scanners. They made their way deeper into the ship, following corridors that seemed to stretch on forever. The walls were covered in more of the strange symbols, and occasional windows showed the darkness of space outside. "Captain, I'm reading life signs ahead," Dr. Sullivan said, checking her medical scanner. They followed the readings down a long corridor that opened into a massive chamber. The room was filled with thousands of pod-like containers arranged in perfect rows. Most of the pods were dark and cold, but 2 near the center of the room showed active readings. Lisa approached one of the active pods and peered through the transparent cover. Inside was a figure that looked almost human, but with pointed ears and features that were too perfect to be natural. The being appeared to be female and was clearly alive, but in some kind of deep sleep. The second pod contained something very different. The creature inside had scales instead of skin, and a face that was definitely not human. It also appeared to be female based on the body structure, but was clearly from a completely different species than the first being. "Doctor, what are your readings on these 2? Dr. Sullivan ran her scanner over both pods. "Both subjects are alive, but in some kind of suspended animation. Their life signs are stable, but very slow. I think we could safely wake them up if we're careful." Lisa looked around the massive chamber at all the dark pods. "What happened here? This looks like some kind of refugee ship." The engineer was studying the ship's computer systems. "Captain, I'm getting some data from their computers, but the language is completely unknown. It's going to take time to translate anything. Focus on the recent logs. I want to know what happened to this ship and why." Only 2 beings are still alive out of thousands. Lisa made a decision that would change everything. We're taking them back to the Wanderer. Doctor, prepare the medical bay for 2 unknown alien species. I want them woken up safely. The team carefully moved both pods to their shuttle and back to the Wanderer. As they transported the sleeping beings, Lisa could not shake the feeling that they had found something much more important than just a derelict ship. The pods were placed in the medical bay, and Dr. Sullivan began the careful process of bringing the 2 aliens out of their long sleep. Lisa watched through the observation window as the life support systems slowly brought the first being back to consciousness. Whatever these 2 had been through and wherever they came from, the answers would soon begin to unfold. Lisa just hoped her crew was ready for what they might learn. The first being to wake up was the one with pointed ears. Her eyes opened slowly and she looked around the medical bay with confusion and growing alarm. Dr. Sullivan approached carefully with her hands visible and empty. Please stay calm. You are safe. We found you on a ship and brought you here to help. The alien woman sat up quickly and spoke in a language that sounded like music, mixed with whispers. When she realized the humans could not understand her, she closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, she spoke in perfect English. Where am I? What have you done with my ship? Dr. Sullivan was amazed. You speak our language. How is that possible? I am learning it from your mind as we speak. It is a simple skill for my people. The woman looked around the room with sharp, green eyes. You are humans, I assume. I did not expect to encounter your species this far from your home system. Captain Martinez entered the medical bay. I am Captain Lisa Martinez of the human exploration vessel Wanderer. What is your name, and where did you come from? The alien woman studied Lisa carefully before answering. I am Zarathiel of the Silver Moon clan, though I suspect my clan no longer exists. Her voice carried deep sadness. How long have I been sleeping? We don't know yet. Your ship was drifting in empty space with no power. You and one other being were the only survivors we found. Zarathiel's eyes widened. Kethara still lives? Show me to her immediately. Dr. Sullivan led them to the second medical pod where the scaled being was beginning to stir. Zarathiel spoke to her in another strange language that sounded like hissing mixed with clicks. The second alien opened yellow eyes and responded in the same tongue. Kethara is of the Veltar people. She is an engineer and was responsible for keeping our ship running. Zarathiel turned back to the humans. She wants to know if you are working for the Silence. The Silence? What is that? Lisa asked. Both aliens exchanged worried looks. Kethara spoke again, and Zarathiel translated. She says, if you do not know of the Silence, then perhaps there is hope. But we must be very careful who we trust. Dr. Sullivan helped Kethara sit up. The reptilian woman was taller than the humans, and her scales shifted color from dark green to lighter shades as she moved. She spoke again to Zarathiel, who nodded. Kethara is grateful for your medical care, but she agrees we must be cautious. The last time we trusted strangers, our entire convoy was destroyed. Captain Martinez felt frustrated. Look, we found you, both nearly dead on a ship that had been drifting for who knows how long. We saved your lives. The least you could do is tell us what happened. Zarathiel stood up, and Lisa noticed she was much taller than she had appeared in the pod. Her movements were graceful, and her pointed ears twitched slightly as she listened. Captain Martinez, my people have lived among the stars for over 50,000 years. We have seen civilizations rise and fall. We have watched entire species disappear overnight. Caution has kept the few of us alive who remain. 50,000 years? Dr. Sullivan gasped. How old are you? I have seen 800 summers on 12 different worlds. Kethara has lived for 300 years. Her people were master builders and engineers long before humans learned to make fire. Lisa tried to process this information. These beings were far older and more advanced than humanity. Yet they had been running from something called the Silence. Commander Amy Johnson entered the medical bay. Captain, our teams have been studying their ship. The technology is incredible, but most of it is damaged beyond repair. However, we did manage to access some of their navigation data. Zarathiel stepped forward quickly. You accessed our navigation systems without permission? Those star charts contain the location of every safe haven left in this galaxy? We were trying to understand where you came from, Amy explained. The star charts show routes through regions of space that appear empty on our maps. Empty because the silence consumed everything that was once there. Cathara spoke for the first time in English. Her voice was deeper than Zarathiel's and had a slight hissing quality. Stars, planets, entire civilizations, all gone as if they never existed. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. What exactly is this silence? Zarathiel and Cathara looked at each other again. After a moment, Zarathiel spoke. We do not fully understand it ourselves. It began appearing 4,000 years ago. Whole star systems would simply vanish, not destroyed or conquered. They would just stop existing. Our ship was part of a refugee fleet, Cathara added. Survivors from dozens of different species all running from the same thing. We had technology that could hide us in folded space, but something went wrong. Dr. Sullivan was taking notes on her tablet. How many beings were on your ship originally? 47. 1,000 souls from 16 different species, Zarathiel said sadly. The sleep pods were supposed to keep us safe until we found a new home. But the power systems failed and only the emergency pods kept working. For how long? Lisa asked. Based on the star positions we observed before entering your medical bay, approximately 3,000 years, Cathara replied. The humans stared at the two aliens in shock. They had been asleep for 3 millennia, while their shipmates slowly died around them. Captain, Amy said quietly, if their star charts are accurate, this silence they're talking about appears to be heading in the direction of human space. Zarathiel nodded grimly. The silence moves slowly, but it never stops. It consumes everything in its path and leaves only empty void behind. If it has continued on the same course we calculated, it should reach the edge of your territory within the next 50 years. Lisa felt the weight of this revelation. They had rescued 2 survivors of an ancient catastrophe only to learn that the same threat was approaching Earth. We need to know everything you can tell us about this silence. How it works, how to fight it, everything. Fight it? Cathara laughed bitterly. Captain, civilizations far more advanced than yours tried to fight the silence. The Eldorani had weapons that could crack planets. The Vorthak could manipulate time itself. All of them are gone now. But you survived, Dr. Sullivan pointed out. There must be a way. Zarathiel looked out the window at the stars. We survived by running and hiding, but we cannot run forever. Perhaps it is time to try a different approach. Over the next few days, Zarathiel and Cathara slowly began to share their knowledge with the human crew. They worked in the main conference room where Captain Martinez had set up a secure area for their discussions. Zarathiel placed her hands on the table and closed her eyes. I will share what I remember of the first encounters with the silence, but I must warn you, some of these memories are not my own. My people can share experiences across generations. Dr. Sullivan leaned forward with interest. You mean telepathy? Not exactly telepathy. We can transfer memories and knowledge directly from mind to mind. It is how we preserve our history. Zarathiel opened her eyes and they seemed to glow, with a soft silver light. I carry the memories of my grandmother who witnessed the fall of the Kepler colonies. Images began to form in the minds of everyone in the room. They saw beautiful crystal cities floating among the stars. Millions of beings lived in peace and harmony. Then the images changed to show the same systems completely empty. No planets, no stars, not even debris, just empty black space. The silence came without warning. Zarathiel continued. One day the Kepler system was there. The next day it was gone, not destroyed, simply erased from existence. Cathara activated a holographic display using technology built into her arm. The display showed a 3-dimensional map of part of the galaxy. Red areas indicated where the silence had consumed star systems. My people kept detailed records of the silence's movements. It follows a pattern, but the pattern is not natural. Something is controlling it. Captain Martinez studied the holographic map. How can you be sure it's being controlled? Because the silence changes direction, Cathara explained. It will sometimes bypass systems that should be easy targets and instead focus on regions with higher populations or advanced technology. A natural phenomenon would not make such choices. Commander Johnson was taking detailed notes. Do you have any idea what's controlling it? Zarathiel and Cathara exchanged glances. We have theories, Zarathiel said carefully. Some of our scholars believed the silence was a weapon created by an ancient race. Others thought it might be some kind of cleaning mechanism designed to remove life from the galaxy. Cleaning mechanism? Dr. Sullivan asked. Imagine a civilization so advanced they could create a weapon that removes entire star systems, Cathara said. Perhaps they decided that younger species were a threat, or simply not worthy of existence. The holographic display zoomed in to show the progression of the silence over thousands of years. The humans could see it moving steadily through the galaxy, consuming everything in its path. According to our calculations, the silence should reach the outer edge of human space in approximately 53 years, Cathara continued. Earth itself would be consumed within 70 years after that. Lisa felt sick to her stomach. How many civilizations has it destroyed? Thousands, Zarathiel replied sadly. My people alone had contact with over 200 different species. Only a handful survived long enough to join our refugee fleet. What made some civilizations harder to find than others? Amy asked. The silence seems to target active technology and large populations first, Cathara explained. Primitive worlds are often ignored until later. Some species survived by abandoning all advanced technology and hiding on dead worlds. Dr. Sullivan was studying the medical data she had collected from both aliens. Your ship was hidden using some kind of dimensional folding technology. How does that work? Cathara smiled for the first time since waking up. Dimensional folding is my specialty. We discovered how to slip our ship slightly out of normal space-time. To outside observers, we would appear to be in multiple locations at once or sometimes not exist at all. But something went wrong with your hiding system, Lisa observed. Yes, the dimensional fold requires enormous amounts of energy to maintain. When our power systems began failing, we had two choices. Use the remaining power to keep the life support running or maintain the dimensional fold. You chose life support, Amy said. Cathara chose life support, Zarathiel corrected. As the chief engineer, she made the decision that saved our lives, but exposed us to discovery. Discovery by what? Dr. Sullivan asked. The two aliens looked uncomfortable. The silence has scouts, Cathara said quietly. Automated probes that search for signs of life and technology. When we dropped out of dimensional fold space, we became visible to them again. Lisa stood up and began pacing. Are you saying these scouts might know where you are right now? It is possible, Zarathiel admitted. But we have been drifting, in normal space, for 3,000 years. If the scouts had found us, we would already be dead. Or maybe they did find you, Amy suggested. Maybe they were just waiting for someone to rescue you before striking. The room fell silent as everyone considered this possibility. Captain Martinez made a decision. We need to warn Earth about this threat. But we also need to learn everything. We can about how to fight it. Captain, Cathara said, fighting the silence directly is suicide. Civilizations with technology far beyond yours tried and failed, but you said some of your scholars thought it was an artificial weapon. If it was created, it can be destroyed. Zarathiel stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. There were rumors near the end. Stories of a control station somewhere at the edge of the galaxy. The Veltar engineers believed that if the station could be found and destroyed, it might stop the silence. Did anyone ever try to find this station? Lisa asked. Several expeditions were sent out, Cathara replied. None ever returned, but they were small ships with limited resources. A proper military expedition might have better chances. Dr. Sullivan was reviewing the star charts on her tablet. According to your navigation data, the station would be in a region of space humans have never explored. It would take years to reach it. Years we might not have, Amy pointed out. If the silence is already heading toward human space, we need to start preparing defenses now. Captain Martinez looked at both aliens. We need your help. Your knowledge of the silence and your technology could make the difference between human survival and extinction. Zarathiel turned back to face the humans. Captain, my people and Cathara's people are both nearly extinct because of the silence. We have been running and hiding for thousands of years. Perhaps it is time to stop running. You'll help us? Lisa asked. We will help you, Cathara confirmed. But you must understand the risks. Fighting the silence means almost certain death for anyone involved. Sometimes death is better than running forever, Zarathiel added quietly. Captain Martinez felt a mixture of hope and terror. They now knew about a threat that could destroy all human life. But they also had allies who understood the enemy and might know how to stop it. The question was whether they could find the courage to try what so many others had failed to do. The weeks that followed brought remarkable changes to the UES Wanderer. Zarathiel and Cathara had integrated into the ship's daily operations, and the crew was learning to work alongside beings who possessed knowledge spanning thousands of years. Dr. Sullivan spent countless hours with both aliens learning about their physiology and medical needs. She discovered that Zarathiel's people could heal from injuries that would kill humans, and that Cathara's scales could actually repair themselves if given proper nutrients. Your medical knowledge is quite advanced for such a young species, Zarathiel commented as Dr. Sullivan ran another scan. Most civilizations take much longer to develop such sophisticated healing techniques. We've had to learn quickly, Kate replied. Humans have always been good at adapting to survive. In the engineering sections, Cathara worked closely with the human engineers to understand their technology. She was amazed by how much humans had accomplished in such a short time. Your fusion reactors are crude but effective, she told the chief engineer. My people took 3,000 years to develop similar technology. Humans achieved it in less than 500. We're fast learners when we need to be, the engineer replied proudly. Captain Martinez had established a routine of daily briefings, where all three species shared information and planned their next moves. The bridge had been modified to accommodate Cathara's larger frame and Zarathiel's need for lower lighting. We've been analyzing the silence's movement patterns, Commander Johnson reported during one of these meetings. Based on your data, we think we've identified its current location. The main screen showed a holographic map of local space. A red marker indicated where the silence was believed to be operating. It's still several thousand light-years away, Amy continued, but it's definitely moving in our direction. Zarathiel studied the display with growing concern. The silence moves faster when it encounters resistance. If human colonies try to fight it directly, that could accelerate its approach. What do you suggest we do? Lisa asked. We need to find the control station, Cathara said firmly. It is the only way to stop the silence permanently. But you said the station is at the edge of the galaxy. That's tens of thousands of light-years from here. There may be a faster way, Zarathiel said thoughtfully. My people discovered ancient jump gates scattered throughout the galaxy. Most are inactive, but some might still work. She activated her own holographic display, showing a network of connected points across galactic space. These gates were built by a civilization that existed before the silence appeared. They allowed instant travel between distant star systems. Dr. Sullivan leaned forward with interest. Instant travel? How is that possible? The gates create temporary wormholes through space-time, Cathara explained. My people studied them but could never figure out how to build new ones. Do any of these gates lead toward the edge of the galaxy where the control station might be? Captain Martinez asked. Zarathiel manipulated the display to show possible routes. There is a gate approximately 200 light-years from here. From there, other gates could take us most of the way to the galactic edge. That would cut our travel time from decades to months, Amy realized. But the gates are dangerous, Cathara warned. Many ships have been lost attempting to use them, and we do not know if they still function after all this time. Lisa stood up and walked to the window looking out at the massive alien ship they had been studying. What about your dimensional folding technology? Could we use that to avoid the scouts while we travel? The Wanderer's power systems could not sustain dimensional folding for more than a few hours, Cathara replied. But I might be able to modify your engines to make short jumps into fold space. That could work, Zarathiel agreed. Brief periods in dimensional fold space would make us harder to track while still allowing us to use the jump gates. Dr. Sullivan had been quietly reviewing medical data on her tablet. There's something else we need to consider. If we're going to the edge of the galaxy, we'll be traveling through regions with unknown hazards. Radiation, gravitational anomalies, maybe even other dangers we haven't thought of. The journey will be extremely dangerous, Cathara confirmed. Even if we find the control station, there is no guarantee we can destroy it. And no guarantee we'll survive the attempt, Zarathiel added. Captain Martinez looked around the room at her crew and their alien allies. The way I see it, we have two choices. We can return to Earth and try to prepare defenses against something that has never been stopped, or we can attempt to reach the source and try to end this threat permanently. If we go back to Earth, what happens to the rest of the galaxy? Doctor, Sullivan asked. Even if humanity somehow survives, billions of other beings will still die. My people tried running and hiding for thousands of years, Zarathiel said sadly. In the end, all it accomplished was delaying the inevitable. Commander Johnson was studying the tactical implications. If we're really going to attempt this, we'll need to split the crew. Some need to return to Earth to warn them about the silence. I agree, Lisa said. Amy, I want you to take half the crew and return to human space. Tell them everything we've learned and help them prepare whatever defenses are possible. What about you? Amy asked. I'm going with Zarathiel and Kithara to find the control station. Captain, that's practically a suicide mission, Dr. Sullivan protested. Maybe, but if there's even a small chance of stopping the silence permanently, we have to try. Kithara stood up to her full height. Captain Martinez, if you are determined to attempt this mission, then my people's technology is at your disposal. I will modify your ship to give us the best possible chance of success. And I will guide you through the ancient paths my people used to cross the galaxy, Zarathiel added. My knowledge of the old routes may be the key to reaching the control station alive, Dr. Sullivan sighed. Well, I'm not letting you go without proper medical support. If you're doing this crazy thing, I'm going with you. Lisa smiled at her crew's loyalty. Then it's decided. Amy, prepare a shuttle and select the crew members who will return to Earth. The rest of us will begin preparations for the longest and most dangerous journey in human history. As the meeting broke up, Zarathiel approached Captain Martinez privately. Lisa, there is something else you should know. The control station will not be undefended. If it truly controls the silence, whatever built it will have created guardians to protect it. What kind of guardians? We do not know. No one who has encountered them has lived to describe them. But the few long-range scans we obtained suggest they are powerful beyond imagination. Lisa nodded grimly. Then we'd better make sure we're ready for anything. The alliance between humans, elves, and the Veltar was about to face its greatest test. The fate of the entire galaxy would depend on their success or failure. The journey to the Galactic Edge took 4 months using the ancient jump gates. Each gate required precise calculations from Zarathiel and careful engineering modifications from Kethara. The UES Wanderer had been transformed with alien technology that barely resembled its original design. Commander Johnson and half the crew had departed weeks ago to warn Earth about the approaching silence. Captain Martinez tried not to think about whether they would make it home safely. Her focus had to remain on the mission ahead. Gate transition complete, announced the pilot. We are now in the outer galactic rim. The view outside the ship was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. Ancient red giant stars dotted the darkness while strange nebulae glowed with unnatural colors. This region of space felt old and dangerous. I am detecting the control station, Kethara reported from her modified engineering console. It is approximately 3 light-years ahead. The structure is enormous, easily 1,000 times larger than your largest space stations. Dr. Sullivan was monitoring the crew's health as they approached their destination. The strange radiations in this region of space were affecting everyone differently. The humans felt tired and anxious, while Zarathiel seemed energized by whatever forces were at work here. Captain, I am reading massive energy signatures from the station, the science officer reported. Whatever it is still fully active, after millions of years. On the main screen, the control station finally became visible. It was a structure beyond human comprehension, stretching across hundreds of kilometers and shaped like a complex geometric pattern that hurt to look at. Directly, energy flowed along its surface in patterns that seemed to follow no natural laws. There, Zarathiel pointed to sections of the station. Those are the control nodes. If we can destroy enough of them, it should disrupt the silence network. How? Do we get inside? Lisa asked. The same way we got this far, Cathara replied. I can modify our dimensional folding system to slip us through their shields, but we will only have minutes before they detect us. As they approached the station, automated defense systems began activating, massive weapons that looked like living. Creatures emerged from the station's surface and began firing energy beams at the Wanderer. Evasive maneuvers, Captain Martinez ordered. Get us close enough for Cathara to use the dimensional fold. The ship shook under impact from the alien weapons. Several systems failed as energy discharges overloaded their modified shields. Folding space now, Cathara announced. Reality twisted around the ship as they slipped into dimensional fold space. For a brief moment, they existed in multiple locations at once before emerging inside the station itself. They materialized in a vast chamber filled with machinery that pulsed with the same energy patterns they had seen on the station's exterior. The air was breathable, but felt thick and strange. Life support readings are stable, Dr. Sullivan reported. But there's something else here. I'm detecting movement in the corridors around us. The Guardians, Zarathiel said grimly. They know we are here. Captain Martinez made quick decisions. We split up. Cathara, can you reach the main control systems from here? Yes, but I will need time to interface with their technology. At least an hour to understand their systems. Doctor, I need you to stay with Cathara and protect her while she works. Zarathiel and I will try to reach the secondary control nodes. They separated into two teams, moving deeper into the alien station. The corridors were lined with technology that seemed to be alive, pulsing and shifting as they passed. Strange sounds echoed from the walls as if the station itself was breathing. Zarathiel led Captain Martinez through passages that seemed to change direction when they were not looking. The station is fighting us. It knows we are trying to destroy it. Can it actually think? Lisa asked. I believe so. This technology is far beyond anything my people ever encountered. It may be more than just a machine. They reached one of the secondary control nodes, a room filled with crystalline structures that hummed with power. Zarathiel began working to access the alien systems while Lisa watched for threats. I can feel the network, Zarathiel said, her eyes glowing brighter as she interfaced with the alien technology. The silence is controlled from dozens of nodes throughout the galaxy, but they all connect back to this station. Can you shut it down? I am trying, but the system is resisting. It was designed to prevent exactly what we are attempting. Suddenly, the corridor filled with light and the Guardians arrived. They were beings of pure energy, shaped vaguely like the station's creators. They moved through the walls as easily as air, and their touch could disintegrate matter at the molecular level. Lisa fired her weapon at the nearest Guardian, but the energy beam passed right through it. Zarathiel, whatever you're going to do it now. I need more time. The system has multiple backup protocols. More Guardians appeared, surrounding them with deadly energy fields. Lisa grabbed Zarathiel and pulled her behind one of the crystal structures for cover. In the main control chamber, Cathara was making better progress. Her reptilian nervous system was better adapted to interface with the alien technology. Dr. Sullivan defended her position against smaller Guardian drones using modified medical equipment as weapons. I have access to the primary systems, Cathara announced. But destroying the network will require enormous energy, more than the station can safely contain. What does that mean? Kate asked while firing at another drone. It means the station will explode and take us with it. Dr. Sullivan paused her fighting. Is there no other way? The only alternative is to redirect the explosion through the dimensional fold network, but someone would have to stay behind to maintain the connection manually. In the secondary chamber, Zarathiel had managed to access part of the control system. Lisa, I can see the entire silence network from here. It spans half the galaxy and has been active for over 4 million years. 4 million years? How many civilizations has it destroyed? Millions. But I can also see something else. The original creators built this as a test. A test of what? They wanted to see if any younger species could work together to overcome an impossible challenge. The silence was designed to force cooperation between different civilizations. Captain Martinez stared at her alien companion. You mean this whole thing was some kind of experiment? The creators transcended physical existence eons ago. They left the silence as a final challenge for species like ours. Those who could overcome it would prove themselves worthy of inheriting the galaxy. And those who couldn't would be destroyed. Yes, but Lisa, we have done something unprecedented. Humans, elves, and Veltar working together. This cooperation is exactly what the test was designed to measure. The Guardians pressed closer, their energy fields burning the air around them. Zarathiel made a decision that would echo across the galaxy. I can stop the silence permanently, but I must sacrifice my life force to power the destruction sequence. My people's connection to stellar energy makes this possible. No. There has to be another way. There is no other way, Lisa. But my sacrifice will not be in vain. The silence will end, and the galaxy will be free. Zarathiel placed her hands on the central crystal and began channeling her life energy into the station's systems. Her body began to glow with the same silver light as her eyes. Throughout the station, alarms began sounding as the silence network started shutting down. In distant star systems, the consuming void began to slow and then reverse as consumed matter was restored to normal space. It is working, Cathara reported over the communication system. The network is collapsing, but the station is becoming unstable. Captain Martinez grabbed Zarathiel's arm. Stop this. We'll find another way. The galaxy must be healed, Lisa. And someone must survive to tell the story of how three species learned to trust each other. Zarathiel smiled even as her body began to fade. Take care of Cathara. She will need friends in the time to come. The station began to shake apart as fundamental forces were unleashed. Dr. Sullivan and Cathara reached the secondary chamber, just as Zarathiel completed her sacrifice. The elf's body dissolved into pure light that spread throughout the station's systems. We need to leave now, Cathara said urgently. I can get us back to the ship, but the dimensional fold will only last seconds. They ran through collapsing corridors as the ancient station destroyed itself. Behind them, the Guardians were dissolving as their power source failed. The test was finally over. The UES Wanderer escaped just as the control station exploded in a burst of energy that spread across dimensional space. Throughout the galaxy, the silence stopped consuming and began restoring what it had taken. Months later, as they returned to human space, Captain Martinez stood in the observation lounge with Cathara, watching stars reappear in regions that had been empty for millennia. She saved everyone, Lisa said quietly. Zarathiel always believed that some sacrifices were worth making, Cathara replied. My people will honor her memory, as will the survivors of dozens of other species who are emerging from hiding. What will you do now? I think I will stay with humans for a while. Your species has much to teach the galaxy about cooperation and determination. Besides, someone needs to help you understand all the new neighbors you will soon have. The galaxy was healing, and for the first time in 4 million years, the silence had been broken by hope.